I will speak in English, unhappily, bad English, with some difficulties eventually. About the story of the project of swimming pool. It's a story of doubts and difficulties. Not so many difficulties as today. There were not so many regulations, opinions, and so. But already with some difficulties. Doubts are welcome because doubt is one of the more interesting tools for architects. So I made projects through these doubts. And the difficulties, mainly because the program during the construction changed constantly. It was made in phases with different demands for the program. So one of the difficulties was how to put together new things successfully. This is a 19th century painting by a great painter called Antonio Carneiro. The site where you can recognize Boa Nova, where is the restaurant next to swimming pool, with the chapel as it is now still. The first project I made here in this coast was Boa Nova restaurant in 58, if I remember. The swimming pool came later. And when I began, the use of the beaches was like that. Families, many from interior of country, would come, rent a barrack, change clothes, closing the barrack. Sometimes, if with them was coming an employee, would bring lunch in a mail, dressed as usually, dressed black with white, rents here and so on. So it was very formal, and people would come to the beach, men as I am now, but with gravata. I don't know how to tell gravata. And then inside the barrack, they would change. But the suite, best suite, were very prudent. We could not, we have to bring a dress here, not naked, and big calças. Yes. And still more, with the ladies, with the girls. So they were almost completely covered. It was a pity. When I began and visited the site that I knew already because I live very near, it's a horizontal landscape. And the other side of street, there is a street, support wall, and the beach is a different level, lower level, but all clean. It was marvelous, all horizontal, until the final line of the sea. And we could see in the south limit, the harbor. This area was completely free because there was a cannon pointing to the entrance of the harbor to protect the entrance of the harbor. The army was there with this old cannon and nothing could be built. So the cannon was good for nothing because it's too old to protect the harbor. But it had an important role, did not allow to destroy this horizontal landscape during many years. Here is the support wall. I saw that potentially would be a difficulty, another difficult, important difficult. It has 1.5 kilometers. From the beginning, I thought to put in the low level, in the level of beach, the buildings, and it was in concrete, was decided to build in concrete. And the difficult, how to finish these new walls in parallel to the granite and the stucco wall, 1.5 kilometers. How to finish that? Municipality had the idea to build a swimming pool. The reason was that the sea there, Atlantic, is cold and wide. So people some days could not take baths, people going to the beaches. And then municipality decided to make a swimming pool, called an engineer. This a very good engineer, Bernardo Ferrão, that I knew already. He was the brother of architect Távora. And Bernardo Ferrão, after conversation with his brother, or he himself, he was a man of culture and sensitive and very good engineer. And he told the municipality, I need an architect because this is a delicate problem of landscape. And he proposed me, and the municipality accepted. The swimming pool was already designed by the engineer and calculated with walls of concrete. And when I began, first thing I asked is not to make 4 walls in concrete. I told him, why not use the natural limits of the rocks, and then only where it is absolutely needed with face of the massive rocks, we make walls in concrete. He accepted, he agreed with this. And this drawing is trying to understand the way the rocks designed the ground, the area, how they, the drawing they would make, how they surrounded the recinto, the sites. So it's a synthesis to understand well the development of topography and of the rocks. And this drawing is already put the swimming pool and swimming pool for children. From the beginning, based on the anterior experience with Boa Nova, I understood that the main item to develop was all the walls, the architecture, the geometry could live together with nature, organicity of the nature. And I understood that the main thing was to find where to touch the walls and the rocks, and looking for sites, points where the rock would be a little higher than the walls, so the walls would finish clearly. Here you see the three main walls, and the limit in the other side with the rocks. And two photos of the finished building, looking to the free area I spoke about, wild vegetation, and the canyon in the end. And the other side, the Atlantic, with the sometimes violent tides invading even the road. To the other side, you see how wide is the sea some days. Before I made the restaurant in Boa Nova, and that was important for this project of swimming pool, because in the first, it was a competition. In the first project that won the competition was rather accidental, hesitant in the meeting with the rocks, because it's also a rocky hill. I think it won the competition because Távora, we had 5 collaborators in the office of Távora, and he didn't want to make the competition. He said he had too much work, but in my opinion, he didn't want, because he was a part of the people commission that organized the competition, so he can be out of it. And called with us and said, "You can do it." He said, "We are not architects. We had not finished the course. We had no diploma." And he said, "No problem. I put the firm." And later, we made, if you win, we make agreement with something today impossible to think with so much documents, bureaucracy. But he just said, "You make it, I put the firm." In the renovations, as you can see, very bad, it's an old document, is also accidented. And after finished, well, meanwhile we changed, we made a total roof, not this accidented thing. I realized it was too much in profile in the landscape. So I made a plain roof, but still I was not happy when it finished with the parallel mimetic between the building and the hill, the rocks. So that was a good lesson. When I made the swimming pool, my idea was already completely different. But inside, the building is more or less the same with the roof and so on. finish the building. Here you see how the roof became plain and how the limits of the building are contained by massifs of the rocks in both sides. But we're in a hurry to design the access. That was a difference of level, big, and we began with an organic way, pedestrian way, but step by step we became not happy with that. And in the end, we put the walls containing platforms and steps to go upside. So the relation with the landscape is at the same time more distant and more able to breathe. So they touch, but they are autonomous in a way. This is about the swimming pool, to show the phases. First, the swimming pool. Some later on, we will see exigence of machines, and then ampliation, and then restaurant, and so. So the main difficulty for me was with successive demands of new areas, how to put them together, the transition between one and the other. And also it depends on my so small experience. Making without prevision that it could be bigger and need other bodies, I did not prepare to receive them. I didn't know. Today I would, looking at this, saying they will demand for more, usually. And today it would be regulations and not this problem. Now a plan. So in the upper part is the road and the wall, supporting wall. And I decided to put down at the level of the local all the buildings. But it began by machines to treat the water, and then sanitaries, another demand, and then bath house, and then restaurant, and so. But the final concept was a ramp, no. In the upper part, you see a ramp going to the level of the installation. Then you enter in a reception in the middle, to the right, men bathrooms, to the left, women bathrooms, and in the middle, cloakroom. Everybody would go dressed. And then in the cabins design, see the cabins, they would change clothes and then go to the cloak room and leave them and take something here for the going outside to ask with a number, to ask for the clothes. And from that cloakroom, they would go outside, and there is a way to the south and to the north. And then to enter the area of swimming pool. To the left would be people without sapatos. Without sapatos, shoes, without shoes. That was very strict. People could not enter in the area of a path with shoes. But some people, mainly mother of the children, wanted to be there to look for, to take care of, but they were not allowed to go with them. So they would stay here in a terrace that was made in the end of the installation. So everything was separated and things were like this. Order was like this. Here you see the ramp I mentioned, down, entrance, reception, paying the ticket, and then in front, cabins for men, the other side for women, prudently very separated. And then by a narrow corridor would go the people without shoes to the area I mentioned before. It was so strict that between people with shoes and without shoes, there were doors that were closed. This was the first construction. This was a tide swimming pool. And still today, people say tide swimming pool, but in fact, it is not. Because the health department of government made an exigence of treating the water. The idea was with the tide, water would fill the swimming pool, the tide down with salt, then a natural renovation. But the health department said, forbidden. It still worked like that, forbidden. And they made exigence of taking the water a little far in the sea, making a penetration, bombs to this machine, filters, chloro as it was used, and so on. Then was the first building. Was nothing. Was in the lower level, rectangular room in concrete, so I didn't care at all. It was in that landscape as it didn't exist. Now some building archaeology, the beginning of the works in that time. The workers were very good and dedicated. The machines were rudimentary, if this word exists, rudimentary. The engineer was very, very good. So the work came and is still perfect today, except for the wide things that meanwhile people made to the concrete, to the wood, and so. But everything is there. Main materials are concrete and wood. Wood must have more than 200 years because it was used. We used wood from demolitions in the center of Porto, and then they had already time, the life of a house, and they are here since more than 60 years. They are perfect. only that, meanwhile, people that made maintenance or better, made destruction, each year would put oil of machines. So one of the problems of recuperation was to take from that beautiful wood that is riga, much used in Portugal in 19th century, coming from Lithuania, from the east, and to take that high of cultura, that was one of the different things. With patience, the workers would clean. I didn't want a strong intervention because with all those years, the wood had the lines, design was with some deepness, and I did not want to take that. But okay, we did. So here is already built the second demand. When we finish problem of water, again, health department said, we need to have sanitaries. And then I began preoccupied. How can I put there more this area? We made the sanitaries also lower area, but I put a porch with the idea if this becomes closed, because the exigence was to close the area. Before it was free. Every people in town, in the beach, could go and take a bath in a swimming pool, where before they used to do that without a swimming pool. It was only a pool between the rocks. Not every day, but many days. So closing it, I said, I must put something that people can see that the entrance is there. It's the porch. It's still the archaeology, building archaeology. I saw this photo with something I don't understand what is, but I think it was to connect the two faces of the coffrage in an ingenious way. Here you see already sanitaries and lower the house for the machines and the relation with the rocks. But later, again, health department sent not a mail in that moment. I know there were no mails, but a call saying you have to make bathrooms or separated men, women, or it will not be approved. And here you feel already the difficulty to connect different things. I never solved well this connection in the beginning. I suffered much, but it was really difficult for me to connect these things. Here you can already see the beginning of the bathrooms. And this thing began more difficult because I decided there was a big surface for the bathrooms. I decided to make a continuous building with same roof, with continuity, and so it resulted well, in my opinion, but remained more difficult how to touch the first buildings. Here you see entrance, the porch and the entrance to sanitaries with a wood structure, and all the panels, the doors are made in that riga with 100 years. And the way goes on to the south and to the entrance in the area. You see here how is the structure. And here you see already a wall separating the access way. So people would go down the ramp from the street. They would enter, they would pay the ticket, enter to men or women cabins, and the space would be dark. There were some openings, but mainly dark in the end. And then going outside, you would receive the light, strong light. But you knew, I am out, I am in a good way. But you would not see, because I made a wall, so people would not see the landscape. Then they would go passing under the porch and then turning and going through the area. Here you see the wall I mentioned, and the going outside of the cabins and following to south and the cabins. I made a structure with two horizontal beams, all in wood, so that the cabins are suspended for these two beams. They don't move. The intention was not to touch the ground, pavement, so that they could clean with water and not damage the wood. So all this is suspended. The light enters by a narrow opening in the upper part. Rooms was an important part in the program in that time. So I had to make special suspension for the clothes in copper, I think. Copper is copper, I think. Because all the metallic pieces had to be in copper, or they would be destroyed, because the air in the sea, near the sea, is very hard. Later, when people began going to the beach or into swimming pool, almost naked, the cloakrooms are good for nothing. Nobody uses it. Remained a space that has its utility, and the old metallic pieces were robbed because the copper became very expensive, so it was taken. Here, looking north, you see the phare in the end and the Boa restaurant between the Névoa and the way to enter the space. Here you see people going outside from the cabins and beginning the way to the swimming pool. And you see the continuity of the roof I mentioned also in wood with copper on it for impermeabilization. And you see the continuity to the north. So it's easy, I think, to understand how delicate would be all these walls in concrete together without physical relation with the granite supporting wall. That was one of the items in development of project. Here you can see already the swimming pool for children and a small bridge. People arrive, cross the porch, turn, go on the passage for the children's swimming pool, going down in a stair, and go on to the main swimming pool area. And then people would use it and playing and resting. There was a lot of movement. Again, to see how the walls look for where to touch the rocks. So I worked with the topographic relief, but then I would go, before beginning construction, to the site, put marks where the project had decided, but sometimes I had to change. So to touch that rock, big rock, as the final of the end of the wall, I had to change a little, because the topography cannot have or could not have at that time the detail. So locally we'll decide a little more, a little less, and so on. And you see how the sea goes against the rocks and enters the swimming pool when the days when it is wild. And it was difficult to approve the project. In fact, I must say that it was never approved. But it's forgotten that, and also in that time, the mayor was not elected. So he had a long life as president, and he was well considered by central government. He would stay. So he was strong enough to forget the information of health and go on and open. It works always without approval. And everybody, one of the difficulties was the rocks in the limit of swimming pool, because people said, department again, or health, too dangerous. People, children will fall down and die. And still today, some authors of the regulations think that the children are suicidal, but they are not. Some adults are eventually, not children. So in more than 60 years, there was no accident there. So this is the way I mentioned passage by a small bridge. Outro. Here is children, swimming pool. Outro. Passage on the small bridge going down and then access to the swimming pool. And in the other side, there is the access to the main area, but also a ramp to the beach neighbor that was in a moment decided to include in the closed area of swimming, closed and paid area of swimming pool. Here is how the rocks design the space. And the dangerous behavior of people, but all of them alive. Not in this moment, I don't know. The rocks with some that were retired, some retouches in the whole of the rocks that make small spaces for one people or for one family or one group, so that there are different places where a group can be or where intimacy can happen also. We put sand in these intervals of the rocks. People like to walk around, look at the sea, take courage to go to a swimming pool when the sea was wild and entering. Different places, you see. There was always one waiting for a group, for a family. Here is the bar, was asked a bar in the end of the installation, where is the area for shoes. With this access controlled to the area where they could be looking to the children. So also there was a crisis because municipality wanted to make walls in the difference of level of some highness, as a lot of people, of men, to say, would come there to see the girls in a suit. But they would see nothing because they are completely covered, but they were there. So some people wanted walls to guarantee intimacy. But I could read. This is the way to the area where is the bar area, shoes allowed, and a small bar. And here you see the end in this in the area occupied, the end of the wall, in concrete walls, in concrete, that began taking variations, not to be just one and other parallel, and because of exigence of program. But still I didn't know how to finish. In the area south, the finishing was possible because of this difference of level. I made the stairs, making a kind of small amphitheater where the show was the sun falling down because it turned to southwest, west, yes. So you could see in the end of the day, very beautiful change of color in the sky and so on. Then, another demand. The bar was not enough and the municipality asked for a restaurant. There it was a big problem. And the first study, I used building a little Altian with my excusation. Too close to make like a court. And that was the end of the concrete development of the building. But I soon saw it was a big mistake because it would not respect the large landscape there. So I took that and I made, as was decided, to annex to the area another beach maintained as it is in the south. I went to the end of that beach where exists in angle a line of rocks that are in angle clearly because of the work of nature. As the wind comes and the strength of the sea comes from northwest, I mean. So I made a building in 45 degrees, and that gives a real limit to the area, clear, serves maintaining continuity of the wall, supporting wall, but the restaurant passes on it and we can cross. So it's a much more subtle way to create a relation between the two languages, two things. But it was never built. I made executive drawings, but then there was not money and then tal. It was much later than the construction of that is solution. So here you see, this is the end, or who comes from south to the north with this terrace. And from here would go the 45 degrees restaurant, also in the concrete. It began with this 25 degrees discovered. So you see how efficient I think is to create a relation between the supporting wall and new area. They are related, but they don't touch, they are autonomous at the same time. It happens because of the analysis of the other solution with the court closing the area. And by a chance that I found in bookshop a book of Frank Lloyd Wright. In those years, there was not much information and books. And also Frank Lloyd Wright crossed a moment where he was not so much considered and studied, even if it is his genius was there more than always. So I saw Taliesin West, a long building that finishes with a 5-degree wall exactly. So I said, oh, it's this. Thank you, Frank. Meanwhile, I was asked to do a plan for this area. I had made restaurant and swimming pool, and Mayor, that was always there, years and years, asked me to make a plan, general plan. And I made it new tracé of the road, accesses to the beaches along and so on. And I also made a plan for the historical center of the town, but nothing was respected, considered. I finished the work in 25 April 74. In the morning, I was going to give to municipality the plan. But when I heard the radio, I understood that it was better not to go. It was in a very hot point. But I gave it maybe 1 month later, but they did not make it. They lost the drawings. I have still copies that the municipality lost or hide it. Well, I was sad because it was to maintain the big landscape of landscape. So I said in commenting that it happened with democracy, a troubling idea. But then I realized that the good things brought by 74 revolution compensated largely the loss of the plan. Well, finishing this, I felt the wish to write about this parcours, this evolution. I wrote 2 small texts. If you allow me, I will read because they are very small. And then I will try to make a naive translation because I did not find someone to translate in the last days. And it says, one is about swimming pool. Do outro lado da rua havia uma planície de vegetação rasteira selvagem. Ao fundo, um velho canhão apontava a entrada do porto, só aparentemente inútil. Mantive obrigatoriamente incólume no espaço a paisagem horizontal digna do mar. Quando a bateria foi desativada, uma nova urbanização destruiu a paisagem, isolou o mar e a terra, which is, the other side of the street, there was a plain with the vegetation low and wild. And in the end, in distance, an old cannon turned to the entrance of the harbor, only apparently unuseful, it maintains free the space, the landscape, horizontal, confronting the horizontally of the sea. When the cannon finished existence and the army left the area, a new urbanization has destroyed the landscape, isolating the sea and the land. The other is bad news. Concluded the restaurant of Boa Nova appeared an oil refinery, invaded the landscape and reduced the restaurant to almost nothing. There were protests, were built towers and petrol tanks in a profile foggy and varied, in some way transparent, or better, translucid. They will disappear. The fault will be felt by the unemployed and those that look the landscape. It would be beautiful, except for the pollution of the air and the sea. Okay. It's finished. No? No, there are the photos. Here is. Here is the refinery when it was built. Now. Oh, this is a photo today, because when I say new urbanization came and destroyed the landscape, this was I was very sad, because after the plan that I made, where the area would be free with some small equipment support, they made a succession of buildings, and it's horrible compared where it was before it remained safe. But okay, it's like this. Thank you very much.